Now, the Harmattan season, which occurs between late November until February or early March, is characterized by dry and dusty wind which blows from the Sahara Desert over West Africa. It generally affects skin in various ways, such as dryness of the skin, chapped lips, and increase in the trigger of asthma problems with the respiratory system, among others. Now, the weather is usually associated with frequent headaches, cough, cold, sore throat, sneezing, wet eyes, catarrh, and general nasal tract disorder, causing great discomfort. It is observed that during Harmattan, humidity drops to as low as 15%, which can result in spontaneous nosebleeds for some people. Now, to discuss further on the health risks and measures to keep oneself healthy during the season is David Mike Terungwa, Team Lead, Global Initiative for Food Security and Ecosystem Preservation, and Africa Regional Coordinator, Citizens Climate International. Also joining us via Zoom is Dr. Lahiru Muhammad Hashim. He is an environmentalist and climate change activist. Good morning and welcome to Daybreak.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you join us in the studio. The season is upon us. Yes. The haze is everywhere. Yes. Every household is having one child go through one kind of treatment for cough. I mean, I have my own son battle with this. They call them stubborn cough. If you can no longer find words for yes. Find words for them, and it does appear that every other time when the season come upon us, we basically struggle to go through it. Why is it make for some comfy sleeping in the night in the absence of the power holding company? But I mean, the hazard it comes with, it's a battle for most households because of maybe not sufficient, not enough information going out there. What are the health implication of having the Harmattan season in Nigeria, usually from November to the later part of March?
So there are several of them. She has rightly mentioned most of them, and you have a typical example in your house, mm-hmm. you know, with your son with the cough, the cold, the asthma, and bronchitis, mm-hmm. you know, and other respiratory illnesses, and basically caused by these dust particles that flow through the Sahara Desert to the Gulf of Guinea over West Africa. And it's not just the dust particles themselves, many of which carries germs, which cause responsible for the disease we are talking about. It's a period that we love because of the cold nature. You sleep and you don't want to get up in the morning. Mm-hmm. And then you expose yourself to that cold, and then you end up with some of these health challenges and diseases. So yes, it's a good period. Without the Harmattan, we will not have harvest. That's so right. For me, I usually would say that Harmattan brings a lot of good and also some bad. Mm-hmm. And then the bad is actually caused by our inability to take precaution, our inability to adapt to the weather at the time. And so we expose ourselves, our children, to some of these illness that we are talking about.
You know, I was actually coming to the positive side of the Harmattan season. A lot of people say, well, it's all, when you mention the Harmattan season, all you think about is cracky lips, chapped feet, you know, and all of that. But you mentioned harvest. What are some of the positive things we can actually gain from the Harmattan season?
I'll start with one that is a little bit scientific. So you see these dusts all the way from the Sahara Desert to the Gulf of Guinea. Now, these dusts serve as food to microorganisms on the water. So it is so designed. I usually would say God designed it in such a way mm-hmm. that these microorganisms, because these dust particles are rich, like I said, they carry germs, and of course some of these microorganisms in the water, those plants mm-hmm. that we cannot see with our naked eyes, feed on them. So that is a great example to start with. And of course, without the plants in the water, we know the implication for the global health and the global climate and the environment as well. But then coming back practically within our environment, we know that it is this time that most of our harvests is done. Rice is done around this time because the Harmattan with the low humidity dries up most of the crops, the guinea corn, the soya beans. You know, like many of the farmers in Benue will usually be excited when the Harmattan comes because the soya beans is dry. But of course, when it's very strong, then it becomes a disadvantage as well because many of them will just break out. Yam is also harvested all around this time. And so the good part again is that with us having a lot of food, it has a good implication on our health because if we have good food, we have fruits. You know, about this time, most of our trees, our plants will begin to fruit, and then we have lots of food to eat. And so it's positive on the health side of all of us. So yes, Harmattan has a lot of positives.
But with the increasing cases of climate change, I mean, we saw the floods this year hit us in monumental proportion, and of course the continued deforestation. Are we beginning to see this Harmattan coming even more intensive than we had always seen in the past? Are we? I know that question would have been best attended to by Dairu Mohammed, but what's your observation with every year? I mean, as we saw with the flood, are we seeing a greater proportion of this dryness or a reduction of it, as the case may be?
So the changing climate could be described as sometimes very severe and sometimes mild. So over the years, you would observe that Harmattan, onset of Harmattan, in some years, you know, is early November, and then sometimes there's that delay, and then it starts in December. And even this year, there was that kind of delay, and you know, it's around this time, December, that we're feeling it. And then again, you might witness early cessation. Like in January, the Harmattan is already gone and the heat season is there. So it is variation in climate. And of course, over time, our actions, you know, human activity have actually influenced how Harmattan impacts us. So you talked about trees. So, you know, during the Harmattan period, you see that very strong wind, and then you cut down all the trees. So what do you expect? You know, soil erosion, especially in the northern part of the country, the Sahel region, becomes very intense because, of course, you know, soil erosion is not just by water alone, but strongly also by wind. So if the soils are not protected, when the winds come, it takes, and the bad part is it takes the good nutritious part of the soil, the fertile one, and then, you know, it just blows it off. I mean, as a young child, a young man growing up, during Harmattan period, you hear noise from trees, you know, you hear those kind of singing line and all. But now it's not there because we have actually cut down most of the trees. We even help to slow down the speed, which will serve as windbreaks and shelter belt in most cases. And you know, so the effect on us is very severe.
Good morning, Dr. Dairu.
Good morning.
Thank you. I'm sure you have followed what Mike has said, but how would you describe the impact of climate change on the kind of Harmattan that we have seen in Nigeria over the years? And is it one that is getting worse or getting shorter, and what are the implications for us?
Well, good morning, everyone. I am so convinced with what Mike have said that the human activity is beginning to make things worse. And if you look at it carefully, you can see that the Hamilton can come with a lot of dust and dryness. And if you look at the benefits of trees that he has cited as windbreakers and as a source of improving air quality, and then you can see that their absence can affect that in a very negative way. You see, the dust that came with this Harmattan can cause eye irritation and even lead to a lot of complications. And if you look at the skin as well, how it causes the dryness of the skin and even the cracking, and also the infection that comes with the wind. You know, it comes with a lot of a lot of infections, and especially the likes of meningitis and pneumonia causing bacteria. So you can see the health implication clearly. And this year alone, we have over 8 million people that die from respiratory diseases globally, and this infection that comes with the air do affect this air quality, in a very negative way. And if we can improve our climate, we can become environmental conscious in our activities. Definitely, we're going to at least minimize the negative effect of this Hamilton. And at the same time, what I also wanted to say is that you see people that are at the extreme of age, especially the under five children and those that are elderly. Our body have this defense mechanism that anytime confronted by infection, the body tries to fight it. So for them,
It looks like we lost Dahiru.
We seem to have lost the audio on Dr. Hashim. I'm sure the technical people will rectify that, and we would have him complete his thoughts on that conversation. Mike, Nigeria is such a dynamic country. I was in Lagos for 6 years, and at best during the Harmattan, all I see is dust. I really don't get the Harmattan feel. The way I get it when I come back. And then when you move to the east, it's a different ball game. And just next door to the east is the southwest, where the rains never stop falling. How do this dynamic impact on us generally as a people? Because 1 minute, if you are awkward immobile, you do the kind of job that puts you in one place or the other. You are in a place and your body is struggling to adapt, then you return to it within the same season, and something as this, it's happening. How does this dynamic generally impact us as a people?
So yes, this is science, and it has to do with rotation of the earth. It has to do with season. It has to do with the movement of air, due to pressure and temperature increases, and that's why we have this season. So at the moment, there is low pressure from the Atlantic, that is from the Gulf of Guinea, and as a result of that, you have this wind coming this way. And so around the rainy season, what happens is you have high pressure from the south, from the Atlantic, the Gulf of Guinea, and so you have the southwestern wind coming in with rain. And so, Nigeria as a country, I keep saying that we are so blessed that we have almost everything. The only thing we don't have maybe is snow. Yeah. But of course, when you get to Jos, you go to Mambila, Plateau is different. So you are down south, Lagos south, and you have rain almost all through the year. And then you are up north, and then you have this variation, in weather, which is a great advantage to us as a people. So if there is no rain at this time in the south, should be producing food, to feed us up here. But all of that is changing, which is a good thing. In the north now, we are relying more on irrigation, as a way of adapting to climate change. Most of the farmers will tell you that they make more profits. They produce more during dry season than during the rainy season because of the rainfall patterns have changed. With irrigation, they can easily determine when to irrigate, when to apply inputs and all of that. So yes, you are in the north and you are so hot, and then you fly the same day to the south, and then it's raining, and then you are in two different worlds. So, but one thing about this Harmattan that is very important to mention, and what people should take precaution really about is, the nose mask is not just for the COVID-19. It also protects you from dust particles. And so if for young people, for the elderly who immune systems have dropped, at the times like this, it's best for them to protect themselves. Because, the wind is blowing, emissions are coming out from cars, people are burning tires, people are burning bush, a lot of things are happening, and then, we are taking all that in, So, but one important thing that I always mention when we talk of Harmattan and this dry season period is the need for us to be conscious about fire. Because of the low humidity, little spark, can cause fire, and the impact of bushfires, which of course we're advocating to our people, like my people in Benue, who would, for one rat will just burn the entire bush, and all, and the effect on our soils is it cannot, be overemphasized. The consequences on biodiversity. I mean, it destroys everything. It takes longer for that to regenerate itself. So, but not just the bush. Talk about, it is this period that most markets, you hear one market in Kano, one market in Sokoto is burnt, because, I mean, once the fire starts, it spreads very fast. With the wind and the low humidity, you just see. So the incidence of fire is very high. And this is one thing that people need to take precaution against. And I advise our friends who are smokers to also help us, because it's very easy. They just smoke and they drop it somewhere, and then they leave, and then they don't know that they've caused fire, with their action.
Interesting. I understand Dr. Hassan we're still struggling to get him back, and we will get him to give us his final thought once he comes in. But as Zainab has said, what do we do as a family, as family unit or individuals, to cope better with some of these challenges? You talked about nose masks. Is that all that there is to it? How do we manage hydration, and all of that to enable us go through this season whilst enjoying it, that we also don't catch cold?
Because some people just say, when it's the Harmattan season, some people just buy cough syrups and say, okay, let me take this through the Harmattan season. And we all know how detrimental that is to our health. So what do we do?
Drug abuse.
Just to moisturize? What are we supposed to do?
Dr. Dahir, as a medical doctor, should have, answered this well. But of course, I can also give some tips. I know that the ladies are usually very angry during Harmattan because their skin. So it's not just the ladies, but everybody. so our skin gets dry. We need to moisturize our skin, to keep ourselves fresh. Because at this time, the rate of evaporation is very high. So our lips are dry, our skins are dry. And one of the best way to moisturize our body is to use petroleum jelly. I know the ladies who don't like this because yes, but of course it protects the body, perfectly. For the children as well, you use petroleum jelly. And then our mode of dressing too should change at this time. You know, in the mornings are very, very cold. In the evenings are also very cold. In the afternoon sometimes it's hot. So you need to, you know, adapt, you know, find that balance, protect yourself. You know, at night, don't feel you have natural AC and, you know, you open all the windows and allow yourself to get so cold. And of course, you are inviting all those diseases we talked about, you know, to come to you. Your windows as well, you know, the importance of having curtains on the window at this time. Because, I mean, we can experiment it. I mean, viewers, just check your curtains, touch it a little, and you see the quantum of dust that will greet you. You know, so these are times that we need to, you know, protect ourselves, protect the indoor air. You know, so that there is some form of filter that comes in, that you breathe some, you know, some good air. And of course, take lots of water. Fluids. You can take tea. Stay hydrated is very important.
I would have loved if Dr. Lahiro was online to answer this, because I'm worried about babies. Babies too at this time. It's quite difficult, like caring for babies. Some like new parents find it very difficult to navigate the whole parenting thing at this point. Now, I don't know if you have any tips, like caring
as
for
a father as well, I would say that at this time, you know, you need to cover them, you know, properly, dress them up, you know, and I remember my son would say, are we expecting snow today? Why am I dressed like this? You know, so but it's important they are protected, because prevention is better than cure. I mean, use warm water to shower where possible, and for kids, of course, you know that their water has to be warm. Keep them moisturized, you know, and also I think the best treatment in this case is healthy foods, local foods. You know, when I say healthy foods, I qualify it with local food, because our local foods are healthier than, you know, the canned imported the others.
Interesting. Mr. David Mike talked about a lot of positive, but he left out the fact that a lot of reproduction happen around this period. And we actually see the results when the seasons are over. My only advice is that when you do that, you should have the chart of the inflation figures by your side, especially if you have had sufficient numbers already, so that you don't bring in people here. You are not able to provide quality food as canvassed for education and all of that. I mean, that's just by the way. We have been talking with David Mike, team lead of Global Initiative for Food Security and Ecosystems Preservation, and Africa Regional Coordinator, Citizens Climate International. And of course, we had the brief privilege to have Dr. Dairu Mohamed Hashim with us. He's an environmentalist and a climate change activist. Thank you very much for finding time to provide us this tip.
Thank you so much for having me.